Good morning friends. In this video you can see some important installation mistakes which are performed by the contractor and accepted by most of the local authorities or civil defense or clients related to fire damper and combination of fire and smoke damper. Example, I have seen these installation issues in most of the projects in Middle East countries like Qatar, UAE and KSA. Before going into the topic, we will see the product safety standard related to the dampers. The first one is UL 555. It is for static and dynamic fire dampers and corridor dampers, which address the fire rating of the dampers, and it was issued on 1968. The second one is UL 555S is for smoke damper and fire and smoke damper, which determines leakage rating for dampers intended to control the movement of smoke, and it was really issued on 1983. And the third one is UL55C is a sealing damper installed in ceiling to avoid the heat transfer through the sealing membrane into the plenum space between the ceiling and the floor above. And this was issued on 1992. What is approved and non-approved installation? Manufacturer tests their dampers in accordance with specific mounting and installation requirements. These requirements are then listed in the manufacturer installation instruction. If a damper is then installed on a project site in accordance with those installation instructions, it can be mentioned as an approved installation. Any deviation from the manufacturer's installation instruction could make the installation not approved. In some cases, local authorities like civil defense can accept installation which deviate from the specific requirement of the manufacturer. In those conditions, the local authority then accept the liability for the possibility of damper failure due to the improper installation. In this sectional view of the image, you can see the dampers installed in the wall. The first one is the retaining angle, as I mentioned A. Here is the retaining angle A. And the expansion device, the B, like you see here, the B, which is the gap between the steel, the damper sleeve on the wall. And the C is the damper sleeve. Like you see here, the C, which highlights here, is a damper sleeve. And the D is the fire damper. The overall arrangement is fire damper. And finally the E is the retaining angle fastened to the sleeve. You can see the retaining angle E, which is fastened to the sleeve, not to the wall. In a standard installation, the damper is mounted in the sleeve. The sleeve or damper assembly is then mounted in the wall, and the assembly is held in position by retaining angles on both sides of the wall. The retaining angles are fastened to the sleeve like you see in this image, but not to the wall. The first issue we are going to see here is the providing sealant around the retaining angles at the junction with the wall. I mean this place. This is the retaining angle. Sometimes we can see the sealant, fire sealant, which has been provided in the retaining angle junction. So the issue here is sealing the retaining angle is not a requirement for an approved damper installation. Building officials or civil defense sometimes require sealing the angles as a measure to prevent smoke movement across the protected barrier or wall. The potential for significant movement of smoke behind the angle to the opposite side of the protected opening is minimal. You can see here different NFA codes like NFA 1, NFA 101, NFA 5000, which are related to exit requirements, fire protection and fire resisting materials. However, no codes in NFA mention you to apply the fire sealant in the perimeter of the retaining angle. However, in those instances where the sealing is required by the local authority, only specific sealants which have been tested by the manufacturer and listed in their installation instruction may be used. Any deviation in those listed sealants could make the damper inoperable and could void the UL listing of the damper. But the important issue here is we don't know of any manufacturer who has tested or approved sealing retaining angles with fire stop products. Under no condition putties be used to seal damper retaining angles unless specifically approved by the damper manufacturer. However, like you see here NFA 80, NFA 90A, NFA 92 and NFA 105, no NFA standards mention the requirement of applying the sealants around the retaining angles. Coming to the second issue, placing products such as mineral wool, ceramic fiber or fire stopping products within the expansion space. Before going into the topic, we need to identify one important thing. That is the purpose of this annular space or gap. A space between the fire damper sleeve and the wall is left to allow for the thermal expansion in the event of heated airflow or the fire. Like you see here in this image, there is a minimum gap between the damper sleeve and the wall is allowed. This space is generally required to be 1 by 8 inch per linear foot of damper dimension with 1 by 4 inch as a minimum. A damper installed in this manner will then be free to float with the wall cavity, and thermal expansion will not impair operation of the damper. Once again, the issue here is some building officials' idea is to limit the smoke migration through this gap from one side to another. However, based on SMACNA, no damper manufacturer has tested or will approve a damper installation where materials of any type are introduced into the expansion device, because it will make the damper inoperable if the provision of a thermal expansion is compromised. So, introduction of any material including the mineral wool, ceramic fiber or sealants of any kind into the required expansion space between the damper sleeve and fire partition has not been tested, has not been approved, and is not permitted by the damper manufacturers. Again, in doing so is a violation of the manufacturer's condition of test and listing, and it could void the UL listing of the damper and could make the damper inoperable. So finally, fire sealant in the retaining angle and wall junction and filling the annular space or gap between damper sleeve and wall is not the manufacturer or standard requirements. If required by the local authorities or local specification, pre-approval from the product manufacturer must be obtained, and only manufacturer listed products must be used.